Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, councillors. I welcome you to our ordinary council meeting of the 28th of August 2023, and I declare it open at 7:03. Could we all please be upstanding so we can do the acknowledgement of country, national anthem and the prayer. I would like to acknowledge the Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land in which this meeting is being held. I pay my respects to their elders past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders people who live, work and meet on these lands. National anthem, thank you.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are one and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts, all beauty rich and rare. In history's page, let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair. Beneath the radiant Southern Cross, we'll toil with hearts and hands to make this Commonwealth of ours renowned of all the lands. For those who've come across the seas with boundless plains to share, with courage let us all combine to advance Australia fair. In joyful strains that let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread, and forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sinned against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Thank you. We have no apologies. We don't have any request to attend the meeting via audio and visual link. The notice of live stream, staff and public are reminded that this meeting is being recorded for minute-taking purposes and is also being webcast on Council's website in accordance with Section 4 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice. This recording will be made available on Council's website. I can see you now. Okay, the Code of Meeting Practice. The order of business is as shown in the agenda, which has been made available. Staff and public are reminded that this meeting is open. Doors to the meeting room are to be left open unless the meeting moves into closed confidential session, according to Section 14 of the Code of Meeting Practice. Only if the meeting moves into closed confidential session will the public broadcasting of the meeting be suspended. Council's Code of Meeting Practice prohibits the electronic recording of meetings without the express permission of Council. Mobile phones must be turned to silent during the meeting. And we now go to disclosures of interest. The first disclosure I have here is Councillor Ball disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item CCL 065-23, report of the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 14th of August 2023 regarding Beverley Park Golf Club audited financial report for the year ended the 31st of March 2020. For the reason that she lives in the vicinity of the Beverley Park Golf Club, Council Board will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration of voting on this item. Councillor Marnie disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NOM 050-23 Glen Lee for the reason that he is a member of Friends of Glen Lee and Oakley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society. Both organisations are actively involved in campaigning for the preservation and acquisition of this property. Councillor Marnie will remain in the meeting and take part in consideration and voting on this item. Councillor Marnie disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NOM 048-23 National Tree Day event at Everett Park, Lugano, for the reason that he is a member of Friends of Glen Lee and Oakley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society. Both organisations have been named in the report. Councillor Marnie will remain in the meeting and take part in consideration and voting of this item. Myself disclosed a pecuniary interest on item CCL 071-23 applications pursuant to Council Award discretionary fund policy for the reason that his office does provide, or my office does provide, architectural consultancy work from time to time to the Greek Orthodox parish and community of Kogarah. It has been identified, that's the Greek Orthodox parish and community, has been identified for discretionary fund grant. I will not be present during the consideration of this item. Councillor Ambi Haberhart disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NM 046-23 homelessness in Georges River, the reason that she is an employee for the St Vincent's de Paul Society New South Wales Council. Ambi Haberhart will remain in the meeting to take part in the consideration of this item. Councillor Wang disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NM 045-23 Bruce Lee 50th Jubilee Memorial Ceremony for the reasons that he is the honorary chairman of the World Dragon Fan Club Australia, who organised the Bruce Lee 50th Jubilee Memorial Ceremony. Councillor Wang will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration and voting on this item. Councillor Wang disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NM 048-23 National Tree Day event at Everett Park, Lugano, for the reason that he is a member of the Georges River Association mentioned in the notice of motion. Councillor Wang will remain in the meeting and take part in consideration and voting on this item. Councillor Stathikopoulos disclosed a pecuniary interest in item CCL 071-23 applications pursuant to Council Ward discretionary fund policy for the reasons that I serve on the committee of the Greek Orthodox Church. Councillor Stathikopoulos will not be present during the consideration of this item. Councillor Picara disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item NM 046-23 homelessness in Georges River, the reason that Simon Burns, a speaker for this item, is a friend. Councillor Picara will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration of voting on this item. Councillor Meir disclosed a non-significant, non-pecuniary interest in item CCL 071-23 applications pursuant to Council Ward discretionary fund policy for the reason that his son plays with the Kogarah Cougars JRLFC. Councillor L. Meir will remain in the meeting and take part in the consideration of voting of this item. We now go to the public participations of on items on the agenda. There are 8 speakers tonight registered There are 8 speakers registered for tonight's meeting. I would remind the speakers that they have a 3-minute time limit. The first sound you hear indicates that you have 1 minute remaining. At the second sound, please conclude your comments. So we'll start off with Simon Burns, who's in person, and he will be speaking on NM046-23, homelessness in Georges River. Thank you, Simon.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you so much for having me here. I just wanted to quickly extend a thank you to Councillor Ashan Bahebaha for putting this motion forward. I also wanted to extend a very heartfelt thank you to Councillor Veronica Fakara and Councillor Christina Jemison for their continued support of homeless on people in the Georges River area. It has been a great experience to work with them. I wanted to talk a little bit about why I'm here talking to you. So I'm the former founder of the Youth Homelessness Representative Council and has been a staunch advocate of homelessness reform for the last 10 years. How is this relevant to you? Well, when I was 16 years old, I made the mistake of disclosing to someone my sexuality. What that meant was that by the time I got home, my father had packed my bags, my family had said goodbye to me, and they said, "We will not have a poofed around our house, goodbye." I found myself on the street in a country town with no family, no support, and no one to turn to. I ended up in Sydney, where I ended up living on the street for multiple months. I was a sex worker, and I did what I could to survive. It was a traumatic time that I will never forget, and many of the young people that I lived with during that time have shaped the person I am today. Now, my story does have a happy ending, but I wanted to quickly make an acknowledgement that there were 36,000 young people who were homeless during my time on the street, as we were homeless in the state of New South Wales. The majority of young people who I knew did not have a positive experience living homelessness, and I buried many friends. So when I say this, I don't just say this as someone who feels that we need to reform this sector. So there's a couple of points that I wanted to touch on quickly with the very limited time I have. And that is that what you need to understand about homelessness is that it's not just about hard sleepers. It's not just about the people you see on the corner. Homelessness is incredibly diverse and there are many facets of it, including couch surfing and many others. The other thing I want you to know is that council can absolutely play a part in solving this crisis. It is not all your job, and I don't expect it to be, but you need to play a part. The other thing I wish to leave you on is one simple statement around town homelessness, is that new houses will not solve the homelessness crisis. It is a part of the homelessness crisis. And that's almost all the time I have for, but I wanted to share a quick word from a young person who is not here tonight. When I served on the Youth Homelessness Representative Council, he spoke at a seminar and said very passionately, "I wish you understood that we are not a part of the problem. I wish you understood that we can be great and that we can do better. And I wish you understood that that's all I want." I ask this council tonight that there are young people that will lose their lives because of our inability to protect them. And I ask you to please consider Ashan Bahebaha's motion tonight. Thank you.
Ruby, the next speaker, Ruby Maloney, again on the same subject matter. Thank you, Ruby.
Good evening. Is that on? Good evening. I would firstly like to pay my respects to Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, who are traditional custodians of this land that we meet on today. It always was and always will be Aboriginal land. My name is Ruby Maloney and I'm the Service Manager of Housing at Project Youth, where we turn around one person every day away from our housing. I'm strongly in support of this motion and I thank the councillors who have made this a priority. I also want to acknowledge that I'm not here today with lived experience on this matter, but to implore you to ensure that your decisions are always based on the voice of the people that you serve, as I assure you there is no better evidence. Project Youth has 30 years of experience in this field, and we are not closer to solving homelessness. And I use the word solve because it is possible. I understand that it is not entirely the role of local government to solve homelessness, but you undoubtedly have a role to play around understanding localized trends, triggers, and to coordinate an approach that means that homelessness is rare, brief, and non-reoccurring. We're not asking you to do the work. We are asking you to support us to amplify the work that we are already doing. Councillors, you are all aware of the risk of Project Youth not having a physical presence in Georges River LGA due to the rent being charged on the building we lease from you. You have a role in ensuring that the infrastructure that is supplied to not-for-profit organisations to address the areas of concerns impacting the people you serve is affordable, and it is the same as you do for sporting organisations. Because homelessness is not only sleeping rough. It is not something that can be measured by a point-in-time count of street sleeping. It is often hidden, and it includes couch surfing, inappropriate dwellings or overcrowding. It is shelters, it is crisis refuges, and it is transitional accommodation. We understand that we need to base many decisions on the ABS statistics stemming from the last census, but we also have to remember that the climate of homelessness was different during this survey, as the government had made addressing homelessness during COVID lockdown a priority. Without this motion, there is no such thing as informed decisions using this data alone. You are the closest level of government to the people, so hear when I say young people are tired of having to make decisions based on where they can receive accommodation. They are tired of choosing between staying in the area and being eligible for CAMHS mental health and having a bed at a refuge. They are tired of choosing between travelling 4 hours a day to get education and dropping out because they cannot reside in their community. They are tired of choosing between earning more than they currently are to have a better quality of life, or losing their housing because they are over the income gaps which keep young people in poverty. Right now, there are 5 properties in the whole of St. George area that young people would be eligible to apply for under New South Wales government rental programs due to the rental caps. These properties are poor, they are below average, and they are not homes. People who are homeless have always navigated a system that works against them, and they don't want to be part of that anymore. I don't want to be part of that anymore. Project Youth doesn't want to be part of that anymore. I want to ask you to be innovative, think outside of the box, be known for creating something that provides change, but I'm not. I'm asking you to agree to a motion to understand and to plan, and doing it in a way that is not tokenistic, that it includes local organisations with the data, with the experience, and consults with people with lived experience. There's no good excuse to say no to the motion. I want to leave you with 2 articles to table and consider. The first is the last 2 annual reports from Project Youth to help you to understand local statistics, not just using the ABS and the census. The second is the University of Adelaide's toolkit for the role of local government in addressing homelessness. And lastly, the national plan to address child and youth homelessness as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. The next person on my list is Mr. Sam Lure, and it's in person, and it has to do with NM 045-23 Bruce Lee's 50th Jubilee Memorial Ceremony. Thank you, Sam. Okay, turn the...
Oh, sorry. Good evening, Mayor Catters and councillors. I'm Kevin Wong. I'm representing Sam, who is the president of the World Dragon Fans Club Australia and the director of Taste of Shindy in both Hurstville and Eastwood. And thank you for the opportunity for speaking today. We, as the club and business, support Councillor Wang's motion for Bruce Lee's 50th Jubilee Memorial Ceremony, which was on the 20th and the 21st of July last month. The event brought people to the Georges River community and promote cultural diversity. On behalf of the World Dragon Fans Club Australia, I would like to express our gratitude to the Georges River Council for all its support to make the event successful. And my special thanks to the Mayor Nick Hodges, Councillor Ben Wang, Councillor Peter Mahoney, and Councillor Nancy Liu, and also Mr. Trilbo, MP, who represent Premier Chris Minns to attend the event. Bruce Lee is from the Fushan Shindy in Guangdong province, which is located at south of China near Hong Kong. And there are many local residents in the Georges River Council are from the same region. there is a strong community and cultural connection, together with the Bruce Lee Monument at Cochrane Town Square to mark the friendship and the connection. And an event like the memorial ceremony embraced the Chinese community, Bruce Lee enthusiasts, and the residents of the Georges River Council. And we look forward to more of this sort of event in the future to strengthen the relationship and solidarity among members of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Gatan.
Thank you. The next person is Ms. Irene Hadzi-Petros in person, and she will be talking on CCL 074-23 deferred report, a request for a delegated authority for the general manager to modify the license agreement for the amenities building in Pulton Park and Peakhurst Park. Irene, thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Catras, councillors, General Manager David Tuxford, staff, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Today I give rise to talk against the Georges River Council request for delegated authority for the General Manager to modify the licence agreement for Peakhurst and Pulton Parks amenities buildings. I am the chairperson and Football St George Executive Director. Football St George is the largest community sporting organisation and governing body for football in the St George region, encompassing 22 member clubs within the Georges River and Bayside Council areas. In referencing the motion tabled with Council, Football St George note in Part 3 of the executive summary of the motion the following. Point 3, Council officers are currently undertaking a review in order to present a future report to Council to seek determination of the operational requirements for the management of the synthetic fields. Until such time, Football St George continue the management of the Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park synthetic fields. Football St George contend that any variation to the master licence agreement Football St George has with Council covering use of amenities and sporting fields, which includes Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park, is premature. Considering Council officers have not yet undertaken the review that is proposed to be presented to Council regarding the future operational requirements for management of the synthetic venues. Football St George understands that Council's intention is to issue a tender for management rights for the Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park facilities, including the fields and amenities. Football St George on a number of occasions have requested Council to provide an explanation as to why Peakhurst Park and Fulton Parks are removed from the management of Football St George, given the needs of the association and its member clubs. With over 12,500 registered members this year and an extended community directly connected to the game of 40,000 plus, we are perplexed to understand the position taken by Council. Council has not provided a logical reason why the management of Peakhurst and Fulton Parks cannot remain with Football St George in a 5-year renewal agreement, as an example, as permitted within the provisions of the Local Government Act, given the needs of our members and the community. Football St George has managed the facilities at Fulton Park and Peakhurst Park and contributed $300,000 of its own funding, whilst it has continued paying annual management fees to Council since its opening in 2019. Should Council wish to withdraw Peakhurst and Fulton Parks from the management of Football St George and our member clubs, the repercussions on our clubs and members will undoubtedly be detrimental to the longevity of some of our clubs. At a meeting on 28th of August 2023 between Football St George and Council officers, at which time we sincerely thank Council staff for their time, it was stated that Football St George retains management of the Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park fields on a holdover provision, indicating they may not conclude until April 2024 or a later date to be advised once Council have made a determination of the operational requirements for the management of the synthetic fields. Considering this, it seems premature to remove the Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park amenities from the master licence agreement between Football St George and Council while this process is being undertaken. We assume removing the Peakhurst Park and Fulton Park amenities from the master licence agreement would require Council to then draft, approve and execute a separate but similar agreement that would continue access to Peakhurst and Fulton Park amenities for the period of time management of the revenue remains on hold with Football St George, which, as I said before, Council indicated maybe until April 2024 later.
Ms. Hadzi-Petros, could you round off, please?
Yes, of course.
Thank you.
Connells Point Rovers Football Club is a not-for-profit local community sporting club established in 1966 and has grown to become one of the largest sporting clubs in the St George area. Their home ground is Poulton Park. Connells Point Rovers Football Club relies on the revenue generated through the canteen within the amenities. Its committee convene regularly in the meeting room, and players, referees and spectators rely on access to change room and toilets. We ask Council to reconsider this motion at this stage until such time that we're able to continue our conversations with Council, and thank you for the opportunity.
We now have Matthew Allison. Thank you, Matthew. And you'll be talking on Oatley Park and Kyle Williams Reserve. Thank you, Glenn.
And Glenlee, sorry. Just
Glenlee,
Oatley Park and
yeah.
Glenlee.
Okay, yeah.
Greetings again, councillors. Oh, you might want to, there we go. Sorry, greetings again, councillors, staff and fellow citizens. As a member of Oatley Flora and Fauna and a friend of Glenlee, I would like to give support to Councillor Marnie's motions regarding Oatley Park protection and also for full government support in investigating a suitable business case for the ultimate protection of Glenlee. While Glenlee was being built on the banks of Limekiln Bay, Hurstville Council was appointed protective trustee of Peakhurst Park in 1908, which was renamed Oatley Park a decade later. These 45 hectares of bushland are often considered to be the jewel in the crown of the bushland reserves of Georges River Council, and is a great example of genuine foresight shown by government to preserve a wooded peninsula jutting into the Georges River. Pretty much ever since, Oatley Park has been under threat from opportunistic endeavours, some by council and others by individuals. In fact, OFF was formed back in 1955 by local residents as a reaction to the illegal removal of bushrock and trees for firewood by wanton thieves and vandals. Fast forward to 2023, and here we are again to pressure council to uphold the principles of the Oatley Park Management Plan that OFF incidentally helped write. Here's a short list of the shortcomings to the management plan that have got our goat. 1, council has failed to deter mountain bike enthusiasts from trashing pristine parts of Oatley Park and hasn't attempted to effectively remediate any of the damage to date or to deter any of the vandals engaged in this ongoing game. 2, council once had a full-time bush regenerator working in Oatley Park, but it is now visited just 1 day per month by an individual bush care officer. 1 day per month. Inadequate attention is obvious with the amount of weeds growing along the circular road from Oatley Park Avenue, entrance to the exit. 3, council sends in untrained workers with backpacks of herbicide to kill weeds and natives indiscriminately in Oatley Park. 4, council's grand plan of siting an adventure park in Oatley Park beneath the shaved majesty of 100-year-old Angophorus has led to the radical pruning of generations-old trees that had already led to the death of one and compromised the health of the others. 5, native flowers are stolen from the bush, and when confronted, the thieves invariably say, "There's no sign saying I can't take them." 6, gates into Oatley Park are consistently left open hours after they should have been locked, inviting illegal dumping and flower harvesting. I could go on, but I'll get to my controversial proposal. Perhaps the best way forward is for council to actually relinquish Oatley Park, at least all the bushland below the circular road from Oatley Park Avenue down to the river. The adventure park and the playing field with amenity block would naturally remain in council's hands, but the bushland below the main circuit road, the castle and the baths could be offered to the National Parks and Wildlife Service. Once you get your head around this proposal, we can see that this offer could be extended to include the 2.5 hectare
Please round off.
historic Glenlee Reserve Estate and all the waterfront land between it and Oatley Park being added to Georges River National Park. At least being in a regional park category under the National Park Wildlife Act, dog owners could still walk dogs on leash, so we don't get them off side, as technically their dogs need to be on leash at all times. a controversial and
I'm
outlandish
sorry,
move, I
I'll
know,
have to stop you. You're actually exceeded the time by at least
over the
another
previous
minute.
speaker, but.
Yeah,
okay,
the
I'll
other
just-
speaker also exceeded the time
Yeah.
by less than you. Thank you. Could I now call on Adrian Polhill, speaking on the same matter with the exception of Glenn Lee.
Thank you, and welcome again to listen to Oatley Flora and Fauna Conservation Society. With many activities, as you know. I've just rushed back from planting another 600 of 1,900 trees this last 2 weekends in a farm not far from Gunning. You've all been invited to those planting events. We've got 3,500 trees to go. Please come along. Anyway, I saw this rather interesting motion. I really hope that everybody can support Peter Marnie's motion regarding the Kyle Williams Reserve and Oakley Park. I also urge you to consider actually adding Poulton Park to this particular motion, because the damage in Poulton Park is as evident as the damage in Kyle Williams Reserve and in Oakley Park. Please think about that as you debate the motion. I can go back to history now. 2 years ago, in August 21, I actually highlighted to the council all the damage that was happening in Kyle Williams Reserve. At the same time, the damage was happening in Poulton Park and also in Oakley Park. I then organised, in 2021, in August, the councillors, many of you are here today, passed a unanimous motion for the GM to urgently implement education campaign signage and ensure staff patrol the park and remediate any bush trails created by mountain bike activity. And it goes on. So the key words there are remediate and remediate. That was August 21. I then organised a meeting with the Director of Assets and the Operations Manager. They came to Kyle Williams Reserve and they gave a clear commitment to remediate Kyle Williams Reserve. That was in October 21, almost 2 years ago. Today, when I read the Director of Assets report here as part of the motion, the Director of Assets says council officers have in the past worked to remediate damages and implement mitigation measures. He also quotes that Kyle Williams is a most ecologically sensitive area. Why hasn't something been done? I call the council to vast inaction over the last 2 years, and I really think that time's up. There's no need to make any more reports. It's a waste of time. Time is for action now, and Oatley Flora and Fauna want to make this offer that we'll put 5 people together and we'll meet the 5 people from the council and we'll start remediation in Kyle Williams Reserve, move on to Poulton Park, and then move on to Oatley Park. Thank you very much for listening. Please consider what I've said very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Polk. The next speaker is Ms. Teresa Cott, and she will be talking on QUWN 028-23 Canterbury Bankstown Georges River Bushfire Management Committee. Thank you.
Good evening. Just a little bit of history, a little reminder. Down in Lugano, there have been bushfires, the 1980s, January 94, 2001, 2014. Georges River Council identifies in their annual report from 2018-2019 that there was a bushfire management committee. I say there was because I asked questions in early 23, and it was only in June 2023 that Councillor Catras was elected as the representative to the Bushfire Management Committee, which would be both for Canterbury Bankstown and Georges River. But the Bushfire Committee isn't active. It's not on the website. So I asked myself, why? I know that I was here in the audience in the public gallery when the special emergency levy was discussed. And it was a pretty serious matter that how much was going to be going to that, towards that levy. There's also been plenty in the newspapers, especially in January this year, that insurance premiums have skyrocketed 50%. Needless to say, the insurance industry have their reasons, the increased costs of rebuilding, surge in claims, and the cost of reinsurance. So somewhere out there, there are ratepayers who are sort of asking a lot of questions. So where are we heading if the Bushfire Management Committee is absent? We don't know where it's gone. We know that the whole process of amalgamation of councils was to bring cost savings, but that hasn't been fulfilled and is certainly not true. So having identified why I'm here talking about the Bushfire Management Committee, I'd like to know where it is. And I know there are some notes in the agenda business papers, but there is nothing on the website. So does that mean that we are implementing cost savings by eliminating a committee? I'll leave the question with you.
Thank you, Ms. Scott. The next person on my schedule here is Kim Wagstaff, who will be talking about NM 047-23 tree canopy targets for Georges River local government area. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I hope this topic is close to your hearts and gets closer every day as the climate change troubles build. This specific issue has been to Council relatively recently, so it is disappointing to have to address it so soon after. However, the new Minns New South Wales government needs to be pushed hard to strengthen the laws regarding trees. All of us here are well aware of the importance of trees, whether they line our streets or beautify our parks and reserves or home gardens. They lower carbon emissions, provide shade, reduce the urban heat island effect, are homes to wildlife, they prevent erosion and flooding, and even add to the value of real estate. However, we understand tree canopy cover is not increasing commensurate with the meeting the target set for Georges River Council local government area. That is 40% minimum by 2038, 40% minimum canopy cover. This is starting from a base of about 24%, which doesn't include mangroves. Given there is only a limited amount of available public open space on which to plant trees, it appears unlikely the target can be met without increasing trees on private land. So we definitely cannot afford to lose the tree canopy that already exists on private land. To ensure this retention, we believe that penalties need to be increased for illegal trees, shrub works, including pruning, removal, poisoning, vandalism, and insufficient protection measures on building sites. And higher penalties need to be introduced, particularly for the unauthorised destruction of vegetation in environmentally sensitive areas such as riparian zones, areas of high biodiversity value, and the foreshore such as the Georges River Foreshore Scenic Protection Area. The current business model for some developers is to simply poison and or cut down trees that are in their way and treat the fine, if the case is ever able to be prosecuted, as a cost of doing business. And the reason they can do this is that the penalties are too small. They simply are of insufficient deterrence value. There are many other councils who support this increase in penalties. I refer you to the Sydney Morning Herald article of February the 5th, headline, "Difficult and Expensive Council Say Laws Don't Deter Illegal Removal of Trees." And there's a couple of sentences to back that up. Some of the 6 councils referenced as being in this predicament include Ku-ring-gai Council, the Hills Shire, Ryde Council and Bayside Council. And there are plenty of other councils, particularly in the Sydney region, that are very concerned about their incapacity to prosecute people who destroy trees illegally. So you're not alone, councillors. There's lots of other councils participating in this campaign. Councillors, we understand you cannot do this alone. The state government needs to step in to support councils' tree management processes and not only increase penalties for tree destruction, but also clarify and strengthen the laws around the burden of proof and prosecution of this offence.
So we urge you to support this motion to write again to the Minister requesting an early, considered and positive response to these issues. Thank you, Councillor.
Wagstaff. We now will go to the confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 24th of July. Could I have Councillor Symington, seconder?
Happy to second.
Councillor Smerdley. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried, and we're now going to my mayoral minutes. The first one is the Advocacy Action Plan 2023-2025. A quick background, I won't read the whole lot out. Georges River has demonstrated significant leadership in the development of key strategic and advocacy documents, including but not limited to Georges River 2050, Local Strategic Planning Statement, Create Georges River Cultural Strategy, Cogra Investment Attraction Strategy, Hurstville Place Strategy, Southern Eratopolis, River Rail Cultural Strategy, and the Economic Development Strategy. The Advocacy Plan 2023 would align and prioritise advocacy actions within one action plan while identifying and prioritising resources to support their delivery. The proposed timing would align with the next scheduled review of the Community Strategic Plan. My motion is that the General Manager develop an advocacy plan, action plan 2023-2025 that aligns with the Council's Community Strategic Plan and other adopted Council strategies. The plan should include but not limited to all those items that are indicated A, B, C, D, E and F. They're all listed in your business papers and they're all in the agenda. If you care to read them at some stage, or I presume you have, I will ask for any further discussion on the matter. Councillor Jamieson.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just a quick question. Is this normal procedures that we usually just have?
We have an existing advocacy plan,
yes,
and it has to be updated.
Okay,
this was
is that
something that
normal?
was adopted a couple of years ago, and now it's has to be upgraded to include the current day regulations.
It's normal procedure.
It's normal
expected
procedure,
to do
yes. Any further questions and any further comments? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next mayoral minute is the National Protection Week. Again, I won't read the whole lot, but I will start off with some of the background. Council is a strong advocate for child safety through its ongoing commitment to putting children first and championing the protection of children throughout the community. Council's Child Protection Action Plan has led to the introduction of enhanced policies and procedures, community awareness campaigns, and the introduction of a child safe code of conduct. Brave Hearts is an Australian child protection organisation solely dedicated to the prevention and treatment of child sexual abuse. According to the statistics made available on the Brave Hearts website, more than 1 in 4 Australians, or 28.5%, have experienced child sexual abuse. Further, among Australian children who have experienced sexual abuse, for 78% of them, it happened more than once. On a mission to prevent child sexual abuse, Brave Hearts will launch Brave Hearts Day, formerly known as White Balloon Day, this year on Wednesday, the 30th of August. This year, National Child Protection Week will be held from the 3rd to the 9th of September with the theme, Every Child in Every Community Needs a Fair Go. Council is an ongoing supporter of National Protection Week through awareness campaigns and education programs to support the community and council staff to be more child safe and to acknowledge and respect the rights of children. This year, Council will be supporting National Child Protection Week through a variety of initiatives which range from, as they're listed there in your business papers, the delivery of online safety webinar an online safety webinar by Think You Know, to launching a social media campaign linking the community to available resources to support the community to be more child safe. My motion is that Council continue its commitment to championing child safety through the delivery of the Child Protection Action Plan throughout National Protection Week, and B, that Council make the theme of National Child Protection Week, every child in every community needs a fair go. Is there any further discussion on this? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next one is Beverly Hills Park National Tree Planting Day. Yeah, I'll read most of this because I think it's rather important to indicate what our council officers were able to achieve. Council participated in Planet Arts National Tree Day on the 30th of July 2023, holding a community planting day at Beverly Hills Park, Beverly Hills, and a tree giveaway at Mortdale Depot. Close to 2,000 trees were planted by 170 passionate volunteers at the council organised events. Scout groups, daycare groups, corporate teams and veteran bush care volunteers all joined forces to establish a sustainable wildlife corridor through the planting of endemic plants to improve the site's Sydney Turpentine Ironbark Forest Vegetation Community. Over 1,100 plants were also given to the community by Council's bush care team at Mortdale, encouraging the revegetation of privately owned land, increasing biodiversity and tree canopy within the local government area. Since commencing in 1996, Planet Arts National Tree Day has grown into Australia's largest community tree planting and nature care event. It is a call to action for all Australians to get their hands dirty and give back to the community. Council and the community respond to this call, continuing the significant bushland management work undertaken by the bush care team. My motion is that Council congratulate the bush care team and all the council officers involved on a successful National Tree Day event, that the participating community volunteers be thanked for their hard work and commitment to improving the vegetation resilience of Beverly Hills. Any discussion on this? Being no discussion, I'll put it to everyone. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The Matildas Football World Cup viewing event hosted by Georges River Council, bringing our community together. The FIFA World Cup is a highly anticipated global event that takes place every 4 years. In 2023, Australia and New Zealand played host to these matches, which presented an excellent opportunity to bring together our community through sport. Georges River Council created a series of five free pop-up live screening events in Hurstville Plaza, where fans came together to enjoy and celebrate the success of our mighty Matildas. The event featured state-of-the-art audio, bench seating, heaters, face painting, and Australian flag giveaways. For the last three events, Council engaged Mr. Michael Malaris, former SBS presenter and resident of our local government area. As our event MC, he interacted with our residents and presented from local soccer clubs who were representatives from local soccer clubs who were in attendance, commented on the games and continued to the celebratory and positive atmosphere. All events received great media coverage across print and online, which showcased the local government area as an attractive visitor destination. As a host city training venue, Jubilee Stadium was utilised for the Matildas training sessions prior to the semi-finals match against England. Looking at the schedule, of matches that you have in this report, you will note that the five matches all featured our very own Matildas, who excelled during all games. We must commend and congratulate the Matildas who made us proud by securing fourth place in the Women's World Cup, which is the best result that was ever achieved in the FIFA World Cup games for Australia. Motion is that Council congratulates the Matildas in securing the best result it ever achieved in the FIFA Women's World Cup for Australia and acknowledges the work of Council officers for bringing the community together around a shared passion for sport with the live screening of the FIFA Women's World Cup Australia New Zealand 2023 at Hillsville Plaza. Any discussion on this?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Conjas.
Thank you. I just wanted to say congratulations to the staff that prepared those, that put together those events down at Hillsville Plaza. I did attend those, a couple of those events, and I must say that there were a lot of people there and the atmosphere was just fantastic. And I think the council staff and officers that put that together deserve not just a mayoral minute congratulations, but congratulations from everyone in the community. Well done.
Thank you, Councillor Konjowski. I've got three very, very short third mayoral minutes, which I thought about just this evening. The first one is the St George Photography Society, the 60th anniversary. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Okay, I declare it carried. The next one that I've got is that I attended the St George Photography Society 60th anniversary. Councillor Elise Bork and Councillor Natalie Mott also attended. I will only say that it was a wonderful evening in the sense that what I was able to experience was some extremely creative photographs. There were a lot of people there. It wasn't just a small group. I think there must have been over, I don't know, maybe 80, maybe 100, I'm not sure. But when you were reviewing all those photographs, you thought there was a lot of effort, there's a lot of ability in what was presented, especially the screenshots and the streaming that happened a little bit later. I was really enthused, and maybe after politics I might take a camera, a photographic camera. Having said that, my motion is that Council congratulates St George Photography Society for reaching the milestone of its 60th anniversary and also for a very successful night of celebration. Would you like to say some words?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to also congratulate the St George Photography Society on their 60 years of service to the community. There were some really great speeches that were made on the night by some founding members and people who had served for 58 years on that society of the 60 years. So I think that's pretty impressive. The things that came out for me, they talked about community, connection and learning and knowledge sharing. So they really encourage anybody who has an interest in photography to come along and learn from those who've been doing it for 58 years. And they're sharing knowledge across generations, whether you're young or old, wherever you're from, they're welcoming everyone. It was interesting to hear some of the challenges that some of the older members talked about, having experienced the transition from traditional photography, where they were working with print and darkrooms, to the digital world of photography and processing. And they emphasised that at the core of photography is the art of identifying a creative concept and bringing that to life, regardless of the method of the capture or the processing. And I thought that was really key point that they made on the night. So yeah, I'd just like to congratulate the St George Photography Society on their 60 years and encourage anyone with an interest to go along and join. They meet at the St George Leagues Club, who provides a lot of support to the society. And Natalie is saying something to me, so she can speak herself. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Did anybody else want to say anything to this? No? Okay. Well, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Just quickly,
Yes.
also I'd like to just make mention of one particular young man that spoke on the evening who suffers with bipolar and has had several mental breakdowns. And this young boy happened to go to Westfield, where one of the photographers that is part of the society, had an exhibition in Westville, and he encouraged him to come along. And let me tell you, that kid, the photographs that young man he has been taken, he takes them out into the surf at around Shark Island. The most incredible pictures you've ever seen. I'd like to congratulate the Society for embracing young Jared also. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mott. I must admit I concur with all the comments that both Councillor Borg and Councillor Mott did say. It was quite an experience in itself. I will put it, all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next one is the St George Netball Association Grand Final Day. On Saturday, I did attend and I'll keep it short, I did attend the St George Netball Association Grand Final Day in Botany Street. It actually, that encompasses both Bayside Council and Georges River Council. And I must admit there were hundreds of people there, hundreds of young persons playing netball. There were families. It was a great event. It was a very enjoyable event. There was a lot of energy. There was a lot of excitement. Where myself, the member for Oatley, Mark Curray, and the member for Banks, David Coleman. Sorry, I just we've got a mental block. David Coleman were given the task of giving out the awards, but it was a very, very enjoyable day. My motion here is Council congratulates the St George Netball Association for hosting a very successful and enjoyable and inspirational netball club final day at the Netball Courts Complex in West Botany Street. So does everybody else want to indicate any and discuss it further? Okay, well, I'll put all those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. The next event was the St George Junior Rugby League Grand Final, which a Grand Final series, which was held all over the weekend. I was invited, but I had so many other functions to go to, so I couldn't make it. I was informed that it happened, and I also was informed that it was a very enjoyable event, obviously very symbolic to the young players who played in our premium facilities, which was Hurstville Oval and Jubilee Park. I can't say much more about it, but I do believe some councillors attended, and they might want to add a bit more to this. Councillor Lansbury. Yeah.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I will just say a couple of words about it. I did I went to Hurstville Oval on Saturday and saw a match or two in the middle of the day, which was great. It was a beautiful day, and it was a great venue, and the kids are just delighted and thrilled to be able to play in such a prestigious venue on a big day for them. I know Councillor Borg went early on Sunday morning to Jubilee, so we didn't cross paths then. I again dropped by in the afternoon after the yes walk across the Oakley Bridge and saw another Junior League Grand Final, and just the thrill that they have of playing at such an amazing venue. And also mentioned to the director, Andrew Latta, that the field is looking incredible. We were fortunate enough to have the FIFA Women's World Cup training there, as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, and the field is just amazing. Like, it still looks incredibly pristine. So we're very fortunate, LGA, to have such great facilities that we can offer to our residents for times like this. I think, for a young kid playing in their grand final to have the opportunity to use these facilities is wonderful that we're able to offer it to them now. So, well done.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Konjowski.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. If you would indulge, I would ask if you could also include the final series that was held at Penshurst Park over the weekend, hosted by Football St George. I did go to one of those games, but I did go to the final of the men's, which I understand had a crowd of in excess of 3,500 people.
Yes, I did hear about that. I wasn't able to actually attend that one either. And I think the fact that it was held over the week and over the whole. So I'd like to move the following. I'll add the congratulations St George Junior Rugby League for a successful grand final series, and Football St George for their successful grand final series over the weekend. And I'm not sure where they were held.
The St George one was held at Penshurst Park.
At Penshurst, yeah, at Penshurst Park. And for the Rugby League series held at Jubilee Park, Jubilee Oval and Hurstville Oval. Is there any further discussion on that? Councillor, Councillor Wade.
So there's a St George Basketball Association. They had this juniors finals also last month, and they said that they told you about that one, so you put that in. So if you don't mind, there's a.
When did it happen, Councillor Wade?
18th. Yeah, 18th. Yeah, last 2 weeks. Sam was part of it as well. Yeah.
Well, I might make that. We'll make the first part of Part A and make the second part of Part B.
Sure.
The council also congratulates the St George
Basketball Association.
The St George Basketball Association for their successful grand final day.
Yeah, I sent you.
Okay. Have we got any other?
Thanks, Sam.
Okay. Councillors, is there any further discussion? As there no further discussion, I will put it. I think you're talking to each other, so I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. That finalises all the mayoral minutes. We'll now go to the committee reports. The first report is the Environment and Planning Committee report. Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will move item CCL 063-23, the report of the Environment and Planning Committee meeting on the 14th of August. There was just the one item, ENB 028-23. Thank you.
Any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll put it.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, sorry, yeah. Councillor Borg is seconding it. Any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. We now go to the assets and committee. We've got the Finance and Government Council Board.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the Finance and Governance Committee recommendations for items FIN 031-23 to FIN 033-23 as detailed in the report be adopted by Council.
Seconded Councillor Jamieson. Is there any discussions on this? There being no further discussions, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. The next report is the Assets and Infrastructure Committee meeting held on the 14th of August 2000. Councillor Symington.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'll move that the Assets and Infrastructure Committee recommendations, with the exception of ASS 019-23, be adopted by Council.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Konjowski. Is there any discussion on those two items? There being no discussion, I'll put them. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Okay, now Councillor Symington, Kenfield, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. ASS 019-23, Kempfield update. Do I need a seconder on that?
Yeah, Councillor Konjowski.
Okay. I'm delighted to move this recommendation because previously, over the last 2 years, the Department of Planning has exhibited a distinct lack of responsibility in relation to Kempfield. We haven't had a lot of good news. I want to make it perfectly clear that Council did not cause, contribute to or permit the contamination within and emanating from Kempfield in any way. Council is not and has never been the owner of Kempfield. Kempfield is owned by the Minister. As a landowner, the Minister has responsibilities in relation to the contamination within and emanating from Kempfield. For more than 2 years, council officers made multiple requests to the department in relation to their contamination and subsidence concerns, with minimal response received. although the department did initiate geotechnical investigations in 2021, but then refused to share the results with council officers. Since the election of the Minns New South Wales government in March and the appointment of the Honourable Paul Scully, Minister for Planning and Public Spaces, there's been a definite change in the department. They're interested, they're taking responsibility and communicating with council officers. Multiple meetings have since taken place with council officers and regular updates provided. This is what should have happened 2 years ago. Now, after virtually no progress, we're finally moving forward, and in the space of 4 months, the department has agreed to develop a communication plan to assist council to better inform the community of current site concerns, ongoing management and future remediation actions. The department is also in the process of developing a business case to obtain a New South Wales government critical safety funding to progress site investigations, including appropriate remediation planning. I want a huge thank you to Minister Scully for that. And I also wish to acknowledge all the work of the Director of Assets and Infrastructure, Andrew Latter, and his team for never giving up and holding the department to account. He stood his ground, he never wavered, and he never lost sight of what was in the best interest of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Is there any further discussion on that one? Councillor Jamieson.
Just a question. Thank you for that, Councillor Symington. Do we have any more news on when it's going to get done or any sort of progress, Tom?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we're in regular contact with the department at the moment, so we're having regular catch-ups. It's just a process that they need to undertake at the moment. So they're in the process of currently preparing a business case. They're hopeful that that would be submitted to New South Wales Treasury over the coming months, and then the outcome, I'm not sure of the time frame, the outcome from New South Wales Treasury. So it is a bit of a process, but they are in regular contact.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Lou.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since last December, that area has been locked in and closed to the community. And it's such a good news that Councillor Symington been reported to council. And thank you for the Andrew and your staff for the continuous work on it. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lou. Any further discussion? There being none, I'll put that item. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried, and now we're going to the report of the Community and Culture Committee. Councillor Lou.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The committee's recommendation for item COM 022-23 to COM 025-23 as detailed below as adopted by council. One of item 025-23, that one been deferred to the meeting today from the last committee meeting. So I think, yeah, I think that will be dealt with at the report later.
A separate item to be dealt with later.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Councillor Lansbury.
I was just seconding.
Oh, you're seconding. Okay. Is there any discussion on this? None? Okay. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee. Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move the recommendation that the Audit, Risk and Improvement Committee and Internal Audit Annual Report to Council for 2022-23 be received and noted.
Thank you. Any discussion on this?
Second.
Councillor Jamieson.
Just wanted to second.
You're seconding it? Fine. Any further discussion on this? There be no further discussion. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Office of Local Government Guidelines, Risk Management and Internal Audit, New South Wales Local Government Model ARC Terms of Reference. Councillor Borg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will move the recommendation that Council reviews and adopts the Office of Local Government Model Terms of Reference for Audit, Risk and Improvement Committees for Georges River Council.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Marnie. Is there any discussion on this? There being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Proposed council and committee meetings, Councillor Ball.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I will move the recommendation that council endorse the proposed meeting schedule for the period 1 October 2023 to 30th September 2024 as attached to the report.
Seconder. Councillor Jamieson. Any discussion on this? There being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Next item is Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference Call Formations. Councillor Ball.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move the recommendation, and perhaps Councillor Matt Wang might like to second the motion and to give him the opportunity to talk to his proposed motion to be put to the local government.
Thank you. Councillor Wang seconded. Did you want to talk to your motion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just briefly, so as I work very closely with the Multicultural New South Wales, so I noticed there's an act actually mandate. So every individual and the institution in New South Wales must observe the multicultural principles. But it may not be well spelled out at the local government level. So my motion is to raise the awareness and promote the cooperation in the future between MASW and the councils. So I'm happy to discuss all those principles, best practice offline. Yeah, so if the council can support me in this motion, and we can take to the LG conference together. Yeah, thank you.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. The next item on the agenda, I believe I have a pecuniary interest, so I'll remove myself from the chamber for all items.
Sorry.
Councillors, we're dealing with item CCL 071-23, applications pursuant to Council Award discretionary fund policy. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that the applications for funding pursuant to the Council's Ward discretionary fund policy as outlined in the report be approved.
Can I have a second, please?
Happy to second that, Madam Chair.
Seconded by Councillor Elmere. Is there any discussion?
Yes, could I ask just a couple of probably dumb questions? But I'm just looking at the one by Sam Elmere. So previously the maximum we could give per person was 1,500, so it's now changed in this financial year. Yeah, and the other question I had is I've noticed that there's 2,500 from last year as well. Was that separate grants or was that part of the discretionary fund as well? Because there was a limit, I think.
You can correct that question too.
Yep, $1,500 was from me, the discretionary fund.
I think within the body of the report, doesn't it list the amounts that were from the previous 12 months? Yeah. And so, Councillor Jamieson, what's your actual question? Sorry.
They've been answered. I'm just wondering how much you said.
Okay. Yeah, I think the report actually details the amounts that have been previously granted to that organisation. Is that correct?
Yes.
That answers your question? Okay, great. Councillors, any further questions? No? Okay, well, I'll put it. All those in favour? Anybody against? Okay, we'll declare that one carried. Thank you. Well done.
The next item on the agenda is outstanding council resolutions up to the period of 30 June. Councillor Hall.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the recommendation that the report on the outstanding council resolutions for the period up to and including 30th of June 2023 be received and noted.
Moved and seconded by Councillor MBH Pahar. Is there any discussion on that? Being no discussions, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare carried. Stronger Communities Funding Update January-June 2023. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are two recommendations. The first, that council receive and note the update on the remaining Stronger Community Fund project as listed in this report. And the second one, that the council note this will be the final update on the Stronger Community Fund project as the grant funding has been expended. Thank you.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Liu, seconded by Councillor Elmia. Any discussion? There being no discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. Now, this is a deferred report regarding the delegated authority for the General Manager to modify the licence agreement for the amenities building at Fulton Park Synthetic and Pecos Park Synthetic. Councillor Liu.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. During the pre-council meeting sessions, this one has been discussed in very details. I wanted to say there are some amendments on the screen.
Can we highlight the amendments? Thank you. I'll give you a couple of minutes to read that and digest it.
Thank you.
You can't read it?
Yeah, I can.
I think it's...
Read it.
Yeah, maybe it's best if you could read it out because they seem to be having problems. Or do you want me to read it out? I'll read it out. The amendment is that Council approve the General Manager to modify the current licence agreement with the St George Football Association, Inc., trading as Football St George for the purpose of removing the amenities buildings at Fulton Park Synthetic and Pecos Park Synthetic from the multi-facility licence, that until the Council considers the future report on the operational requirements for the management of the synthetic fields, Football St George continue the management of Pecos Park and Fulton Park Synthetic in line with the current management agreements. That council officers provide a briefing to councillors on the options for the management of the synthetic fields to optimise the access for grassroots football. When you're talking about grassroots football, are you talking about amateur football?
Grassroots clubs.
Grassroots clubs.
Sorry.
Okay. But now,
reference to, I'll just wait for my time to talk.
we've got to move. We've got. Are you
I'm happy
moving
to
that, Councillor Liu?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
You're seconding it. Now, we're having any discussion on this? Councillor Elmia, yes.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for the opportunity to speak to this, and I want to thank as well Ms. Hatzipetros for coming in and addressing council. And I acknowledge the fact that from in her position as chair of Football St George, she is here to look out for the best interests of Football St George and their member clubs. I think from our perspective as councillors, we always need to consider every single item of information in front of us, and the circumstances by which this motion has come up is because there is a discrepancy between the licence agreements between the synthetic fields and the amenities blocks, and there's a governance scenario that needs to be brought into line to actually iron out any of those discrepancies. Now, one thing that I think every single one of us here and every single person at Football St George is extremely concerned about is to ensure that grassroots football, such as your Connells Point Football, Rovers football clubs, or your other grassroots clubs that use these synthetic fields, continue having access to these synthetic fields. And that is one thing that I think is at the utmost priority for all of us here. What's also important as part of that is during those times that they are using those synthetic fields, that they have access to those amenities blocks for the storage of their equipment, for conducting any sort of meetings that they may have at those clubs, but also having access to the canteen facilities that generate much needed funds and income for those clubs to continue operating and to continue subsidising some of the costs for our children to continue playing sports and being active in our local area. I think what this motion does is strike a very fair balance in ensuring that council has the tools available to ensure that there is high standards of governance, and making sure that council's situation is ensuring we're protecting the future assets of these synthetic fields and these amenities buildings, but also ensuring that we make sure, ensuring that we keep that time that's available to those grassroots football clubs available so that our kids can continue playing during that season, whether it be March to August or March to September or whatever they might hold in terms of academies and all that sort of stuff. And I think having that briefing available to us as councillors, we can explore these options and make sure that we continue putting at the top of the list the needs of those grassroots clubs to have access to those fields and to those premium facilities that we pride ourselves on providing for our community, the synthetic fields and those new amenities blocks. So, councillors, I put this motion forward to you, and I hope that everyone can get on board. Thank you.
That was the speech for. Do we have a speech against? Do you have a question?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just wanted to address some of the points that were raised by the director. There was mention of, as per the Local Government Act. I assume we are acting as per the Local Government Act that was
The
mentioned.
director. Yeah. There you are.
Yes, there's nothing in this resolution which is contrary to the Local Government Act, and it's consistent with the General Manager's delegations. We are working in accordance with the agreements that we've already issued and maintaining a ongoing agreement in terms of the management agreement as standard practice as you move to different arrangements.
Thank
Yep,
you.
and
Councillor Jamieson. Yeah.
I'll just wait to just pose these questions. That the fields and amenities is the intention that you're removing FSG or withdrawing from grassroots. I just want confirmation because I'm under the understanding that we're not, but I wanted to clarify the questions that were raised, issues.
Through this, I might just ask the councillor to reframe that question. I'm not sure I understand the question.
It was in the speech, it was mentioned that the fear of the fields and amenities are going to be removed from FSG, but from my understanding that it will continue to be managed by Football St George, and there is no intention to take these fields from grassroots sports.
I can't speak for a future council, but the council resolution maintains the rights of Football St George to have the licence and manage and continue to manage the fields in accordance with the management agreement until council has considered a subsequent report from the council officers about future operations of the management fields, and council completes any tender that needs to be undertaken for its future management. So we'll know the outcome once council's undertaken those two steps.
Further discussion. I do have one question, and that is, does that mean once the current licenses are brought in sync that you go out to tender, or does B override that and say you've got to have a report first?
My understanding of the motion before the council is the second part of that alternative is that we would complete that work before, because then we would be ready to go to tender, and until that time Football St George would remain with the management rights of the synthetic fields as well as the licenses for the amenities building, as all would be managed together until council has completed the investigations that are identified in the report. I think it's paragraph 8 of the report outlines that, and then we'd be in a position to go to the tender as required by the Local Government Act.
Do we have any idea as to how long the process of getting that report before the council is?
I think we were estimating around about April or May next year. As you understand, by the time we do that report, and then go through the process of a tender, that will be some time. And none of that work will certainly be completed before Christmas, and we'll be into the next year before that work is completed, I would assume, and assuming the outcome of the tender process.
But the tender process won't proceed unless we have a report.
That's right, and the council determines how it wants that management agreement.
And that depends on the council.
Yep.
Taking, and I assume that would depend on the council agreeing that it should go out to tender.
Mr. Mayor, the council would have to determine how it wishes to proceed with the management of the facility. Yes.
Thank you. Okay. Any more discussion? No further discussion. I'll then put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Okay. Now, we now go to the Savings Finder program by Councillor Liu.
Just give me a second. Yeah, according to the details on the report, it has been, yeah, thank you. My motion will be that the council partners with the Service New South Wales and some of the not-for-profit community organisations to promote the Service New South Wales Savings Fund program to CALD, communities. The background from this motion is we might realize that within Service New South Wales, there is a current existing program that has been combined with 75 New South Wales state government rebates and vouchers that are offered to eligible New South Wales residents like us and the elderly and especially the people from the multicultural communities. So some of them are suffering from the language barrier or cultural barrier. Even Service New South Wales are trying hard to promote those programs to those communities and residents. They are still finding difficulties to be accessible to those programs. So that's why I've got a meeting with someone from, especially from Service New South Wales in Hurstville branch. There is someone who are taking that role and promote state governments those programs. So that's why I'm coming up with this motion. Wanted to have work with these specialists to deliver these kind of programs to our local community. We can try to use a Formula One, so council can provide like a workshop, location, a venue for them, and we can work with one of the community organizations to let them give us a workshop. That's Formula One. Formula B, we can work with these specialists to our existing, our planned programs that council has already planned. So those two details we can work with our official, with our council officers. the purpose is like what I just said. We wanted to help those people with language barrier and the cultural barrier to really easily accessible to this program. So that's where my motion is coming from. So if I hope the councillors who can support my motion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Liu. Councillor Mia, did you want to add to that? Are there any objections to the motion? Being no objection, any further discussion? I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. We will now go to the Blues 3 50th Jubilee Memorial Ceremony by Councillor Wayne motion. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I will be quick again because there are lots of media coverage for this event already. So I will not repeat. I just want to make 2 points. First, this ceremony was really a community festival that's felt by everybody. So it's also work by the community, by the council, the mayor, councillors, and also the community organization, the Dragon Fan Club, headed by Mr. Sen, who just spoke. And I just want to mention this is also good for the local business. Yes, it attracts lots of visitors for the local restaurants and everything. And the second point I want to make is for this Bruce Lee statue, whatever the history may be, so it has a positive image right now for corporal, and that's a cultural symbol. So I kindly ask the chamber to support this motion to acknowledge the cultural significance of this statue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wayne. Councillor Marnie, you seconded it. Would you like to say anything for it?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Being no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we'll be going to the homelessness in Georges River by Councillor Ambi Hapaha.
Do you want to get a seconder for it?
Yeah, Councillor Jamieson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you to Simon and Ruby for speaking today on this motion. I think it's a very important one that Georges River Council should take interest in, and I hopefully have councillors around the table that would support this motion. There's a couple of things that was discussed tonight by Simon and Ruby, particularly around what is homelessness, and I think it's fair to say it's more than just rough sleepers, which is sitting around 6% across Australia. The majority of our community that are facing with homelessness are within the scope of secondary and tertiary homelessness, and that covers things like couch surfing and living in accommodation which is pretty much substandard or over, I guess, dwellings that are pretty much overcrowded, which I think Ruby and Simon covered tonight. So further amendment that we put to the motion specifically included around the report taking consideration of getting consultation from people who actually understand the issue within our community. So specifically local stakeholders and those who have lived experience of homelessness. And also to include the scopes of transitional accommodation across the aspect of tertiary homelessness. So thank you so much, Simon and Ruby, for speaking on the motion, and I hopefully will get support on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jamieson, did you want to add to that?
Yes, I did. I think people may know, but I first found a real passion for it after the talk at the women's the domestic violence speeches that we heard from Steph Allen in regards to Kingsway Care. And after that, I did go and seek to speak with Kingsway Care and also Rabbi Mendel from Jewish House, which is one of the biggest homelessness people, as well as speaking to Simon and people. And the issue is big. And I think there is a lot of things that we can do. We tend to push it aside. And I think as was said by Ruby, we need to have informed decisions, and that starts with just having a talk. And it is quite complicated, and it just blew my brain out that people have to suffer so much so needlessly. So thank you for doing that. And yeah, definitely have a passion for people to have just basic security, especially families and kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Jamson.
Thank
Councillor Picard.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wish to speak to the motion, please. Councillors, I speak in favour of this motion. However, I feel the need to add to the discussion in a nuanced manner. Councillors, I'm deeply concerned about the occurrence and impact of homelessness in our community of Georges River. I believe that council should continue to support the work that local services are already doing in our community. In regards to this serious matter, I believe it is most important for council to consult with local service providers to see what they need from council within its remit. This consultation is essential to guiding the work that council does, so we are using our resources in a strategic manner. And thank you to the speakers in public forum, Simon Burns and Ruby Maloney, who advocated for this earlier this evening. Thank you so much for the work that you are doing to support our local community. I speak tonight because I wish to ask my fellow councillors to please think broader about the role we have in ensuring that members of our community have access to safe and affordable homes. In fact, it is not just a role we have, it is an expectation that many advocacy organisations and state government have of local government across the board, so we can support them in creating enough homes to not just meet demand, but to take serious heat off rapidly increasing housing prices and in turn take serious heat off the rental market, which are undeniably contributors to the increasing rates of homelessness in our state. Let's hear what some advocates have to say. In April this year, Trina Jones, the CEO of Homelessness New South Wales, was quoted in the media saying, quote, "We cannot solve homelessness without more housing. It's that simple." In June this year, the St Vincent de Paul Society National President Mark Gaetani said, quote, "The focus should be on the common good, and that means prioritising what is needed to increase housing supply to ensure the delivery of safe, secure, affordable and energy efficient homes." Shelter New South Wales, a peak body that campaigns for a fairer and sustainable housing system, says on their website that, quote, "We advocate reforms to achieve this vision by focusing on ... regulation and planning that control and direct housing supply, quality and location." Street Smart Action Against Homelessness says, quote, "We have a market solution geared to support investors that puts upward pressure on prices and pushes low-income earners to the fringe with few jobs and little public amenity. What public housing remains comes with a depressingly long wait list, and much of the stock is poorly utilised. There is a welcome growth in community-owned social housing, but it will take a long time to recover what has been lost. Put simply, outrageous prices and few choices at the lower end of the market are the leading cause of homelessness." A landmark 2019 report by the Australian Housing and Urban Research Institute said that, quote, "Homelessness is rising in areas with a shortage of affordable private rental housing and higher median rents. This rise is most acute in capital city areas, specifically Sydney, Hobart and Melbourne." I continue, quote, "Low-income people are moving further out, and even though rents are more affordable in those areas, if there are a number of people trying to compete for those affordable rents, there will be a discrepancy in supply." The Premier and the member for Cogra, the Honourable Chris Minns MP, has stated that, quote, "Calling it a housing crisis isn't an overstatement. We need to tackle this from all angles, but the main one is housing supply." To quote the Premier again, "We have to get more comfortable with the idea of going up. Apartment approvals are at their lowest since 2014, at the exact same time as Australia has a housing crisis." And at lunchtime today, the Premier tweeted the following quote, "Not everyone will like this, but to fix the housing crisis, we must build up, not just out," and that's exactly what we're doing. Councillors, I believe there is a significant mechanism within our remit that we are neglecting in this discussion. Local government sets the rules at the start of the game. We control the LEP, we control the DCP, we control the zoning, we control the floor to space ratio, we control the height limits, we approve the DAs. There are many ways if Georges River Council is genuinely interested in taking the heat off our housing and rental market that we can help. I encourage my fellow councillors who are serious about doing something to address homelessness, rental stress and housing stress in our community, in which we all are, to please use all of the tools available to us within our remit, including supporting a reasonable but substantial strategic growth of homes in our LGA. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ficarra. Now, is there any further discussion? Councillor Lansbury.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I do just want to add a few words to that. Firstly, to thank Councillor Amber Haberha for bringing this to us. It is a really important issue for us as councillors to consider because, as we can see from the body of the report from the 2021 census, that they have suggested that there was over 500 people in our LGA that may be homeless, and we can only guess at just what the real number is for that. Thank you so much to Simon and Ruby for speaking to us tonight. Simon, for sharing your story, which is so personal. There is nothing like lived experience to provide decision makers with the tools to move forward and hopefully make decisions tonight that will address some of the homeless issue in our area. And Ruby as well, working in that field, her first-hand experience as well is invaluable. So I really support the amendments that you've made to your original. I liked it how it was, Ash, but I like that you've wrapped it up by consulting with stakeholders and lived experience advocates, because there's nothing like lived experience to help you formulate your policy. So again, thank you so much. It's very brave of you to speak to us about your story, Simon. Thank you for it. And councillors, I implore you to support this. Thank you, Ash, for bringing it to us.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Is there any further discussion on this? There being no further discussion, I put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I'll declare it carried. The next item on the agenda is tree canopy targets to Georges River Local Government. Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This motion is simply a follow-up to our resolution from the February meeting, to which Council has not had a response, which asked the State Government to review penalties for illegal works and to consider high penalties for offences in environmentally sensitive areas. Thank you.
Councillor Simon, can you second it?
Yeah, I have, and I'd just like to say a few words. Probably 2018, I brought a tree bond notice of motion. It kind of originated because a resident of over 50 years in Peakhurst walked past a beautiful, majestic eucalyptus tree every year that he was there, and then suddenly, because there was a development, this tree was supposed to be maintained. Even it was supposed to be maintained, it died, and we do have the tree bonds, but I totally agree that those penalties should increase for all the other trees. It's akin to strategic execution of our flora, and they should be increased to stop this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Symington. Any further discussion on this? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. And we're now going to the Oakley Park Cole Williams Reserve by Councillor Marnie. Move.
No.
Sorry. Oh, National Tree Day. Sorry about that. I've just got different things on one side. National Tree Day event at Everett Park, Laguna. So, Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This was a very successful event organised by the Laguna Tropes Association, which involved 9 energetic community groups, one of which was the Muslim Home Education Network Association, where many volunteers came from as far as Liverpool. I thank all those groups, the involvement of council staff and Councillor Amber Haberha, who supported a grant application towards the purchase of the plants. So thank you.
Thank you. No. We got a seconder? Councillor Amber Haberha. Did you want to talk to it, Councillor?
That's right.
No, did anyone else want to talk to it? Okay, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Oakley Park Cole Williams Reserve, Councillor Marnie.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I have an amendment which is up on the screen, or should be up on the screen shortly, and it's to include Poulton Park as well, not just the 2 parks in the title of the motion. Thank you.
Councillor Lansbury, you're seconding it.
Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Marnie and Councillor Symington.
Yeah, so,
Councillor Lansbury, sorry.
Thank you. There's been extensive damage done to Oatley Park, Kyle Williams Reserve, and as Mr. Polhill verified tonight, also to Poulton Park. So I'd like to incorporate that into the motion. The deterioration of all three parks has caused erosion and destroyed trees and other habitat, wildlife habitat, as well as creating hazards for visitors. The report will look into measures to restore these areas and to prevent further damage. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lansbury, did you want to add to it?
Just a little bit, Mr. Mayor. Thanks to Councillor Marnie for bringing this to us, and thanks to our speakers who've left the building by the looks of it. I met with Adrian Polhill a couple of years ago when he first raised the issue of Kyle Williams Reserve with me, and I was pretty horrified at the time and discussed it with the director who did get some action going with bush care. And I think we were still having fallout from weather at that point too. It unfortunately has been, these locations have been severely damaged through mountain biking, and I understand that mountain bikers want to, you know, go off-road and do this, but it's pristine bushland that needs to be retained. So we need to be vigilant and, you know, bring it back every now and then to make sure that, which Councillor Marnie has done, to make sure that it is being taken care of. And I think by adding the additional locations to it, I think it strengthens it. Again, it's an issue very close to the hearts of Adrian Polhill and Matthew Allison, so I'm pleased that they probably will keep holding us to account at council. I think it's important that we do. Obviously, resources are limited, but so is pristine bushland. So, you know, we need to prevent any further damage where we can.
Thank you, Councillor Lansbury. Is there any
I do have a question, if that's okay, just to the director, Mr. Ladder. I have been thinking about what we heard from the multiple speakers that we heard from in public forum, and thank you so much for getting up and speaking about this matter and advocating for it. And thank you to Councillor Money for putting this motion forward. I've been reflecting particularly on what Mr. Polhill said in his speech to us councillors about, we see lots of reports. Would council have done this work without a report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as part of our operational response through bushcare, we would have been looking at the rehabilitation of these sorts of areas. But as Councillor as Councillor Lansbury points out, we do have limited resources. So those resources, either being monetary or people resources, can only go away to actually addressing all of the issues created. One thing that we did note is that there was certainly a spike in activity over the COVID period. That seems to have settled to a large extent, although we still do have pockets of this sort of behaviour that goes against the plan of management in each of those locations. So, in short, Councillor Pekara, the answer is we probably would have got around to it, but this may expedite some activity and identify the resources required.
Councillor Lansbury, did you want to talk to this? You were seconded, or was Councillor Jamieson?
You're the second, but I just have a question.
Oh, you have a question. Okay.
I just have just some of the points that were made. Can I have a question through you, Mr. Mayor? Is one day per month from council, is that true and accurate, and is that reasonable, or just
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll need to take that question on notice, Councillor, in terms of just verifying how much time is actually spent at that particular location. I believe the resident was talking about Oatley Park when he mentioned one time per week. One thing I will mention is we do have 2 dedicated staff operating out of Oatley Park full time. So they're there to not only look after the cleanliness of the site, but also to maintain the grounds. We do have a team of bushcare professionals that actually operate out of a number of different sites across the local government area, and we do engage with contractors. As I say, I'll need to take the exact time spent at Oatley Park on notice.
Thank you. And another question for you is that I think Adrian Polhill put an offer in. I don't know if that's realistic, and again, you might have to get back to us, but they suggested about getting 5 off people to help. Would that even be feasible?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, most certainly, and I think we've been working pretty closely with OFF over the last few months, so that offer would certainly be a feasible thing. We do have volunteers that work in the bush care area as well, so OFF being one of those organisations that actually supports volunteers throughout a bush care activity. So absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on this one? Being no further discussion, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. Now we're going to the Glenlee motion by Councillor Marnie.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Do you have a seconder?
Please.
Seconded by Councillor Amby Haber.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, we've unanimously voted in favour of numerous resolutions dealing with the heritage and possible acquisition of Glenlee, but unfortunately the site now lacks state heritage protection and neither level of government has promised any funding towards purchasing it. This motion calls for the preparation of a business case which will provide complete clarity to the New South Wales and federal governments as to the numerous benefits which this unique property will yield to the community. There is no doubt that it must be acquired and preserved. Because this business case cannot be funded by council, and as I consider that there's a good chance that Glenlee may pass into the state government's hands due to the wealth of heritage and environmental evidence identified so far, I believe that it's only fair that council asks the Minister Sharp to consider funding the business case. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Marnie. Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Amby Haber?
Just very briefly, Mr. Mayor, I think this is a great step forward on behalf of council to do this and write to the minister. I think we need to have action where we can have something tangible to take back to the community who have been so strongly advocating on Glenlee. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion? No? All right. I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. Declare it carried. And now we're going to the water refilling stations in Georges River Local Council, LGA. Councillor Moore. Councillor Moore.
Just have Councillor Moore. Bork. Sorry. I'll just speak to this quickly. We made an amendment. Is that up there? Can I see it? Oh, yeah, we did, yeah. So, as the general manager,
yeah, thank you,
Louise. That the general manager provides a report to council on the number of existing water refilling stations throughout the LGA and their locations, the cost and feasibility in installing more water refilling stations, including dog bowls throughout the LGA. So I'll just speak to it quickly. And I propose that the motion to once again illustrate our desire to meet the needs of our constituents and show empathy with their healthy lifestyles and environmental choices. The idea that we could provide water refilling stations is obviously not a complicated or difficult one, but most definitely a logical one. Georges River Council LGA is fortunate to have numerous walking and running park and bush areas for people to exercise in and indeed exercise their pet dogs. To encourage this, by providing a facility that allows ratepayers to refill water bottles would be more than welcome. I'm sure, while also easing the pressure on the environment through a reduction in plastic bottles, which would provide. I would also like to add just one thing. These stations, which I've seen provided in Shoalhaven Council, and that is the inclusion of the fixed dog bowl at the base, can be refilled with our class would be applauded by dozens of dog walkers every day in our community. So thank you. If you can support my motion, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Ball, did you want to say anything?
Yes, I just. Yeah. So thank you to Councillor Moore for the motion and for making the amendment to include the dog bowls. I had a resident contact me recently about they live in Belgrave Street in Cogra, so in a highly densely populated area with a lot of apartments, and they were asking if council could consider to have dog bowls around the Cogra Town Square or in that Cogra CBD area. And we know that there is greater density going around Cogra and Cogra North. There's very few parks for people to take their dogs to, so people are walking them around the streets and in the squares. And this person was just making the reference that even in those urbanised areas, if we could consider to have some of the water fountains that also cater for dogs in those areas. So thank you to Councillor Mort for putting this motion up.
Thank you, Councillor Borg. Any further discussion on this one? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour say aye. Aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried, and we're going to the questions with notice. I will only take further questions, not a repeat of what's there. Councillor Jamieson.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question in regards to the DAs. Actually, I actually read it through the newspaper first, then on here. But have we got a plan, or it doesn't look good, if I'm right, it doesn't look good for us, but is that before we hired people, or have we got a way to go forward?
The Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Jamieson, I guess I will explain the biggest issue is, of course, the recruitment of staff. All right, so the councils are up against Department of Planning, Department of Health, Department of Education, Department of Transport. They're paid more, their working conditions are better than what we can offer. So we're up against that for a start. So I will also say we have recruited 4 times for 2 principal planners, 3 times for fast track planners, and we recruited 3 times for student planners, right? So we haven't had principal planners for a year. And the principal planners are the important planners because they are the ones that are approving the larger developments. So the multi-dwelling, the residential flat building. So then in the past, when we've been in this situation of staff shortages, we have pulled in consultants. We can't get consultants and contractors because they have been pulled in by the state government. So we are getting contractors in, but they're often quite junior contractors. We have staff, we have very good and dedicated staff, but they're more junior staff that need to be mentored and they need to be guided in what they are doing. But it is not all lost. I have now in the process of entering into a memorandum of understanding and to get assistance from the Department of Planning. So the Department of Planning have offered 2 planners and a consultant, because they can get the good consultants to come and process development applications for us. They, of course, they want medium density and they want affordable housing and social housing. We don't have those types of applications, so I'm in the process of convincing them to do dwelling houses, alterations and additions, secondary dwellings, because that is 90% of our DAs, and getting applications that have we can do under delegation, so they can move them through quickly. So that should have started on the 1st of September. It may be a little bit later, and they will be working with us for 6 months. The other areas is around some areas of process improvement, which I have a reasonably new manager. So the things that I'm working with him on are getting applications through that bloody portal. All right, so I've asked him to go and spend time with the staff to get them moved, right? God knows why it takes so long. Why couldn't we just keep it as we had it and provide the department with information? But I'll curb my frustration there. Some other things around which are already in the pipeline but need to be finished, the use of templates, conditions of consent. Again, it's something that we have to standardise through the department. That's not an easy process. But there's one area that causes enormous amount of frustration is the area of variations. So I will get some help. I'll get someone to come and work with us to work out what is to guide on that's called the tolerance. What is our tolerance to vary things? So that's the process I will do as well. So there's a number of things. It's not going to fix the problem like that, but it will try and see if we can help move some of these things through. Community customer service and talking to the applicants and residents, that is something the whole of council needs to do. That's one thing I've been trying to do over the years. It has slipped a little, so we'll get that back up and going as well.
It is something that keeps me awake at night, I must say, but without me totally micromanaging it, which is I'm virtually, in that space, we'll try and get some things fixed. But we just can't get the stuff. That's the problem. We just can't get the stuff. So.
Thank you,
It's
Director.
like a council session.
Yeah, the council. Okay, are there any further question related to questions which have not already answered? Councillor Martin.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just with regard to the Bushfire Management Committee, I understand that's external to council. So are the records of those meetings held by the RFS or Fire New South Wales, or do we have access to them? Are they publicly available, in other words?
I'll put that to the director that's involved with that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I believe that they're publicly available, but I will need to take that on notice, Councillor Marnie.
Thank you.
Any further discussion or questions? Okay, well, we now will have to go into closed session. So we're going into confidential. At this point in time, the meeting will move into a committee of the whole to allow consideration of a matter in closed session in accordance with Section 10A of the Local Government Act 1993, that in accordance with the Section 10A Clause 2 of the Local Government Act 1990, Council enter into closed session to discuss CCL 038A 23 property matter 247 Princess Highway, Carlton, proposed lease to the International Buddhist Association of Australia Proprietary Limited, that in accordance with the provision of Part 1 of Part 4 of the Local Government Act 1993, the matters dealt with in this report be excluded in closed council meeting at which the press and public are excluded in accordance with Section 10A Part 2C. It is considered that the matter information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct business, that in accordance with Section 10D, it is considered that if the matter were discussed in an open council meeting, it would on balance be contrary to the public interest as it is information that would, if disclosed, confer a commercial advantage on a person with whom the council is conducting or proposes to conduct. Accordingly, members of the press and public are excluded from the closed session, and access to the correspondence and reports relating to the items considered during the course of the closure of water withheld. I ask the General Manager if there have been any written representation of objection from the public.
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, well, we need a procedural motion.
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor O'Meara. I don't think a procedural motion needs a seconder. So I'll put it. All those in favour of that procedural motion? Aye. All those against? Say no. Okay, can we now, for the members of the public and the press, live streaming will cease and remove following the confidential session of council. Once the items are addressed, the live streaming will recommence and the resolutions which occurred in closed session will be confirmed. We will then deal with the remaining items on the agenda. If there are any, I believe there are none. So, off the air. It looks like we're live. Now, the recommendation, moved by Councillor Bork, seconded by Councillor Symington, is that the General Manager be authorised to enter into a lease agreement, a deed of release settlement and any associated documents with the International Buddhist Association of Australia, Cooperative Limited, the tenant, on the terms and conditions as generally detailed in this report, the confidential report, that the claim for disturbance costs associated with compulsory acquisition of the tenant's leasehold interest in the matter be accepted by council. We've got Councillor Bork, we've got Councillor Symington. They've moved and seconded. I'll put it again. All those in favour say aye. All those against say no. I declare it carried. And councillors, that ends this meeting at 9:10, and thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your night.